Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Segment 1 is the Congressman Tom Reed weekly press call. And you can guess the topic. If you guessed Chautauqua County, Seneca Nation road conditions, you were correct. In segment 2, we hope to have Democrat State Senate candidate Austin Morgan, the Cornell University student, and Democrats candidate for the Senator Kathy Young seat. All right, starting out in segment 1 here with Congressman Tom Reed. And Reed opens up talking about what the governor's senior advisor, Rich Azarpidi, said about Reed having a press conference in Buffalo as a purely political stunt. Here's what Reed said about that.
To follow up on the governor's response, the governor believes that this is a political stunt. I can assure you it is not even close to a political stunt. When it comes to the lives of the traveling public, we're going to make sure that the shenanigans of political vendettas and political warfare do not risk the lives of people out there on a day-to-day basis. And this request, we had a good meeting with the U.S. Attorney following the delivery of the letter to his office yesterday afternoon. And we're going to continue, Governor, just fix this road. The bottom line is this. The money is there. The road is clearly in need of repair. That other areas of that roadway outside the Seneca Nation boundary line has been repaired. Money has been spent by the state on that roadway. And so the money is in the hands of the state. The toll money that hardworking Americans pay to travel that road are sitting in the state coffers. And there's no barrier to fixing that road. And God forbid, I'm telling you, God is my witness, that someone's going to get killed here. This game that is being played, this political game that is being played with the Seneca Nation through the governor's office is causing real-life risk to people out there on a day-to-day basis. And it's not just limited to this road. Enough is enough. If there's a dispute with the nation, settle it. In regards to sitting down, if you want us to mediate that negotiation, we always stand ready to do that. We've done that in the past, and we will be a voice to try to bring the folks together. But in the meantime, just ignoring this and carrying out political vendettas for political leveraging positioning in a war and trying to war with the nation is just not something that is going to be the right course to take. And so we're going to continue to weigh on the governor to do the right thing, fix the road, resolve this dispute in the proper form. The traveling public or other members of the public in harm because you want to use strong-arm bullying tactics to try to exert your position of my way or the highway, no pun intended. That is not the way to get things done, and it's about time that the governor's office stop with the name-calling, stop with the petty type of political posturing that it's been doing on this issue, and in regards to how we've raised the awareness of this issue to the level that it needs, and get it done. Just fix the darn road and make sure people aren't killed or hurt because that is where we're going if this political game continues to be played at the governor's office. So with that, just wanted to respond to the governor's response, and let's open it up to questions. Rick Miller?
Good morning, Congressman. No question right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Good to see you yesterday.
And Rick Miller does usually ask questions there from the Olean Times-Herald. It must be that he caught up with the congressman on Tuesday. It's the Newsmaker Show with the Congressman Tom Reed weekly press call. Next, they went to Dave Raleigh, WDOE Dunkirk.
Good morning, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing well, Dave. Good to hear from you.
Tom, you mentioned you did talk with the U.S. Attorney here in Buffalo after your news conference. What was his impression of this? Will he play a role, perhaps, in this investigation?
He was very professional. I appreciate U.S. Attorney Kennedy taking the time to meet with us, George Barillo and myself, on behalf of the folks of Western New York and the traveling public. And he understands that this is a serious request, that what we're trying to do here in regards to hold the governor's office accountable, but at the same time, that our priority mission throughout all of this is to make sure the traveling public is safe when they use that road and the other roads that are in deplorable condition as a result of this political dispute between the nation and the governor. And so I took away a positive impression of the U.S. Attorney and his professionalism. Clearly, in handling this complaint is something I was given a very positive first impression of.
So I guess what happens now as far as the process if the Attorney General decides to pursue an investigation?
I'll defer to them, but obviously they have the resources, they have the tools, they have the investigators, and they have the expertise to deal with these issues. And so let's see where this goes, and let the Department of Justice take its course in regards to the request that we asked to be initiated here.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you, Dave.
Brian Whalen.
I think those last two just about covered me. Nice to see you again, Tom.
Yeah, good to see you, Ryan.
Alex from WX85.
Yes, sir. Hi, Congressman. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. Did you hear directly from the governor as far as the response goes, or where did you hear his response?
I saw the public statement that the senior advisor to the governor put out, calling this a political stunt. And I've seen the governor's acknowledgement on tape when he admitted that this is tied into the gaming compact, which has nothing to do with that safety condition of the thruway.
And why do you think this may be an abuse of power by Governor Cuomo?
Because there's no defense to this. I mean, you're using unrelated the safety of constituents, the safety of people that are traveling in the state in order to exert some sort of political leverage. That's an abuse of power, and that power that is being abused is putting real people in harm's way. And so, to me, that's an abuse of power that should be held accountable in the governor's office. And then on top of that, there's resources that are in play here. These are toll dollars that people, hardworking Americans, have paid to the state to have that road in a safe, passable manner. The obligation of the state to repair that road is clear, and the federal money has been allocated to this road. And so, where are those dollars? What are you doing with them? That's another question that has to be asked. Were they misused? Have they been applied somewhere that they shouldn't have been?
And obviously you haven't heard back from AG Barr yet on this.
No. Obviously we started the ball rolling yesterday, and again, the meeting was positive, and look forward to the professionalism of the Office of the U.S. Attorney and the Justice Department, and we will see where it goes. But that may not be the end of it. We are also looking at, there's tools at the federal level in regards to independent audits of where the dollars are going, who's making the decision as to where these road dollars are going. There's other issues that are in stake here that being home on the resource. So we've met with local officials that are raising some very strong concerns about money that's owed to the local municipalities, and that also is a potential risk to public safety that we're very interested in seeing what's going on and getting to the bottom of it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's the Congressman Tom Reed, a weekly press call here on the Newsmaker Show on AM 1480 WLEA. Next question from Chautauqua County reporter Terry Frank.
Yes, good morning, Tom.
Hey, good morning, Terry.
Good to see you yesterday at Southern Tier.
Yeah, great operation, great business in the district, no doubt about it. Good to see you there, Terry.
They've really done well. I wanted to stay on the Seneca issue there for a moment. You mentioned that you would be willing to mediate something between the Senecas and the governor's office. Has your office reached out with regards to both of them at this point to say, hey, let's get together on this?
We have used that path previously in the back in historical differences there, and we extend that offer again. Now, obviously, we are dealing with a situation where the governor's laid down a marker where it seems he's committed to this approach of my way or the highway when it comes to the issues that are involved here. But hopefully, calmer minds and reasonable minds will take root out of the governor's office, and we'll sit down. And if we can be fruitful in that relationship, obviously we stand ready to do it.
On a different topic, but somewhat similar vein, I know that President Trump is looking at the diversion of FEMA funds with regards to construction of the wall, the southern border wall. And I've heard on one side that he is able to do that. He should be able to do that. And then I've also heard that it's not legal. Which is it in your mind, and is it the proper use of that funding?
Well, obviously, this diversion of money from one account to another has been deployed by multiple administrations over the year, not just President Trump, but prior administrations. There's multiple court cases that have taken on this issue, and we'll have those go through the court to see exactly what the ultimate outcome will be, and some courts have sanctioned this action. My concern remains that who fundamentally should take responsibility for this is Congress. That is why I was so proud to be part of the humanitarian aid money that got released to the border to take care of the crisis and officially sanction that through congressional process. That, to me, is the wiser course, and my hope is that congressional leadership will set aside politics and do the right thing and get the necessary money there to the border to secure it. But at the same time, let's fix the immigration broken policies that are causing this crisis to exist in the first part.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
And the next question came from our station, WLEA. We asked if U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr goes after Albany and Governor Andrew Cuomo, would that not then open up the door to more lawsuits from State Attorney General Tish James in Albany against President Donald Trump?
I can't comment in regards to actions that would be taken in Albany in regards to retribution or other issues, but I've heard from many people across the state that say this administration takes a very hard line when people oppose it, and I get that. I guess that's the prerogative of the governor and the administration to do that. But we've had people come to us and even express concerns about this situation on the highway, and but did not want to publicly have their information released because their employers told them that they were afraid of losing state contracts and other issues with it. So, this is well known, and it's a concern that I have, but, it's the prerogative of the administration, I guess, to engage in that type of behavior. And I'll defer to them as to what retribution, what activity, and how they feel it's warranted to take out their opponents, if you would, or people that disagree with them by this adversarial approach.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You have been muted. To unmute yourself, press the star key twice.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Jerry. How you doing?
Good. I just want to take a step back a little bit on this issue with the highway. I was interested in what you just said there about people coming to you and not necessarily wanting to be public about what they're saying about what's happening there. If you could just give me a little bit more clarity, is it just people with the Seneca Nation? Are there other business people who are concerned about the condition of the road, et cetera?
Absolutely. Obviously we've had this information out on social media. People have contacted us, numerous folks, not only from New York State, but from outside of New York State that have traveled here, visiting the state. And, we've had some folks that have expressly asked that they don't participate in any public disclosure of their name and an address, the details of their interaction with the road. They're comfortable with us using, but as they've indicated to us, many of them have state contracts through their employers that I guess are concerned about the retribution effect, and we've seen that before. And so, hopefully, as we stand up to the governor, that's our job, and we'll take on. The governor called us names and other things, and in this exchange before, governor's office, I should say. But that goes with the job, and I can take that. I've been called names by the best of them, and so. But doing the right thing is what this is all about, and ultimately, just fix the road, and this all gets taken care of.
I get the sense, though, too, that this isn't just a Seneca Nation issue you're talking about. That there are other people who are very concerned about this.
No, these are people that are not related to the nation. These are people just traveling back and forth to work from Chautauqua County to Buffalo, for example. These are people that are using that road. And it's obvious that their risk to their life and to their property is something they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis for some of them, and others in a sporadic way. And so, this is not limited to the nation. That's why bringing the dispute with the nation into fixing the road, and they're completely unrelated matters. And if you got a dispute, resolve those disputes in the forms in which those disputes need to be resolved.
Okay, great. Thank you much.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, at that point, they called it quits for the weekly press call. There were no follow-up questions at the end, as there usually are. And we thought with all the time left, we'd invite on State Senate candidate Democrat Austin Morgan. Hopefully he'll be coming up next here on AM 1480 WLEA Live. Stay with us.
Ready to create your own income with your own home-based business where there's no such thing as getting laid off? If a billionaire entrepreneur spent 5 years and $20 million searching for the next big trend, wouldn't you want to know what he found? If you're serious about making money from home without having to leave home, then write this down. www.goherenext.com. You decide your income. Get the facts now. Goherenext.com.
Well, we invited him on, Democrat Austin Morgan. He accepted our invitation, and we're glad to have him on the line with us right now. Democrat State Senate candidate Austin Morgan, thanks for calling in.
No, thank you, Brian. Glad to be on.
Well, you just heard I hope you could hear it through the phone line, the Congressman Tom Reed press call from yesterday. Were you able to hear that, Austin?
Yes, I was.
Your thoughts on what the congressman said about the road situation and whatnot in Chautauqua County there in the Seneca Nation area of the Thruway?
So I want to be very clear here. We all want the roads fixed. And it was funny, he quoted my press release there just very closely when he said, just fix the darn roads, because I've been saying for weeks, just fix the damn roads. Because this is what we want. This is the resolution we want. No one's trying to minimize the experiences of commuters. No one's trying to minimize the seriousness of the situation. We want the roads fixed. But my contention is the way that Reed has gone about this and the way that he's dragged George Borrello and his tractionless state Senate campaign into the mix here is just making it all worse. He's enjoying a chance to attack the governor and simply fanning the flames, putting the parties farther and farther apart, making resolution even harder.
Now, yes, you'll be facing off George Borrello come the November elections. George Borrello, the Chautauqua County executive and Republican state Senate candidate for the Kathy Young seat in the Senate. You said in your press release the other day that George Borrello used, I believe, county funds for that Tuesday press conference up in Buffalo?
Yes. So what we're focused on here is, this whole thing with Borrello and Reed is a stunt. They're just trying to harass the governor and, wasting taxpayer resources through the DOJ at the same time. But Borrello himself is at the same time misusing his own county resources. Public officers law says the taxpayer-funded resources cannot be used for campaign-related events. And so when Borrello goes on his candidate social media and says, I held a press release today, that shows the intent was that he was there as candidate George Borrello, not county executive. And yet he stood there at his county executive podium. I'm sure he brought staff. I'm sure he drove his county executive car. This is a gross misuse of public resources to bolster his tractionless campaign.
We're talking with Democrat State Senate candidate Austin Morgan. Austin, you did want to bring up other issues. You say that other funds are being used too?
Really, we're focused on the resources here. We don't have, obviously, the paperwork that shows funds being spent, but it's pretty plain to see that George Borrello has, this time and in the past in other issues, used his resources as county executive to run his campaign. And that's a transgression of public officers law and civil service law. So that's potentially a finable transgression of the law. So that's what we're looking into right now. And I think we all need to be, outraged that George Borrello is using our taxpayer resources to campaign.
Talking to State Senate candidate Democrat Austin Morgan. Austin, I can tell you the reporters are all kind of marveling that you're a college student at Cornell. It's very rare that someone so young gets into politics. What made you want to run?
Well, we should say Cornell graduate now.
Oh, you've graduated from Cornell. Okay. Originally, when the news broke, you were a student. Now you've graduated. Can I ask what your major was?
I majored in human development, and what I studied for 4 years was how our children develop and how our seniors develop in older age. And what I mostly studied was how that is affected by rural poverty. You know, rural poverty is incredibly different in terms of how it affects us socially, biologically, neurologically, when you compare it to urban poverty.
Austin Morgan, what are the big issues for you as a candidate for the state senate for the 57th district to take over the Senator Kathy Young seat? That's Allegheny County, parts of Livingston County, and Chautauqua County and Cattaraugus County as well. What are the big issues for you?
I mean, there are so many issues at this point, right? The reason that I got in this race is we have neglected so many issues over the years that, you know, my generation, my children have everything to lose if we don't get our act together. So when it comes to things like lowering taxes for the middle class, when it comes to things like growing our unions, which built the middle class, when it comes to lowering taxes, helping small business, making sure that our farmers can stay in business without taking out larger and larger loans every year. I mean, I live in freedom, and we're surrounded by agriculture here, and seeing farms close, seeing them shut their doors because of the regulation, the red tape, because they cannot make a profit, and part of that's Washington and part of that's Albany. But the biggest issue in this election for this Senate district is representation. The reason that Kathy Young got so much stuff done, the reason she was able to deliver for our district, deliver grants, deliver legislation, deliver the allocations in the budget that helped us to continue to grow, the reason she had that ability was her stance and her power in the Senate majority. And now, this year, we have a new Senate Democratic majority. What that means is that downstate lawmakers are flexing a lot of muscle in Albany these days. And a Republican from this area would be laughed out of the room. They would sit on the bench watching government happen without them. They wouldn't have a say. They wouldn't chair committees. They wouldn't be able to pass legislation. So the vital thing for our district is having someone in that new majority, having someone who can chair the Agriculture Committee, which would be my first request to Andrea Stewart-Cousins, the leader of the Senate, because we have the most agricultural district in the Democratic Party, and it should be rightfully ours, just like it was rightfully Kathy Young's when she first went to the Senate. So that would be my first request, chairing the Agriculture Committee, and that's not something George Borrello can do. Beyond that, my case to the voters has been to send a rural Democrat, someone with conservative fiscal values, someone who has Western New York homegrown values, to send to Albany to give a counter voice to those voices coming out of New York City, especially the Democratic Socialists.
Talking to, that's very interesting that you say that and bring up the Democratic Socialists there, talking to Austin Morgan, the Democrat State Senate candidate. Well, when Senator Kathy Young stepped down, she took a job at Cornell University. Just kind of interested to find out, have you met with did you meet former Senator Young in your time at Cornell?
Well, actually, I first met her during my time in the Senate. Even being so young, I'm the only candidate in this race with experience in Albany, with any knowledge of how it works. So I spent 2018 working as a legislative analyst. My job was to translate the legalese of the bills into, you know, real person speak and talk to my senator about these things. And what I had the great pleasure to do was, my senator was from Queens, but he was also on the Agriculture Committee. So I got to bring a lot of my experience, talk with him about that, give him my experience as a kid from Freedom, and talk about how he should vote on these agriculture bills, and he was very receptive to that. But I met her in Albany then. I got to see how her team worked. I got to see the representation she gave us, the power she wielded and what she did for our region, and it was amazing. I voted for Kathy Young even as a Democrat. She was amazing, and we need someone in there who can carry on her legacy. But I did just see Kathy recently at the Chautauqua County Farm Bureau dinner. She was talking about the great work that she's doing with Cornell, helping our farmers, helping our local businesses to connect together to make sure that New York-grown products are prospering. And I'm so glad that she's doing that work, and I can't wait when I'm in the state Senate to work with her and make sure that the 57th District's farmers are really at the forefront of that.
Now, on the campaign trail, have you had a chance to talk to Governor Andrew Cuomo? You mentioned Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins earlier, the head of the Democrat State Senate now. Have you had a chance to talk with Governor Cuomo or anyone from his staff?
I have not talked to the governor's office or his staff. They have not reached out to me, and we have not reached out to them. The governor is not really part of this election. The only way he would have been involved is if he'd called the special election earlier, but he chose not to. We have not been in touch with the governor. In fact, I had very little contact with the local Democratic Party up until I decided to run. So, I'm not one of these party loyalists. I'm not plugged into the Democratic machine in the way that George Borrello is allegiant to his Republican friends there, but so no, I've not had any contact with the governor, and I don't plan to.
Now, you spoke earlier critically of the New York City Democrats. I find that very interesting. Where is it that you part company with some of the New York City Democrats who are heavily influenced by, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez?
Well, I mean, and I don't begrudge them. I don't hate any of them. We have a strong mentality against New York City here. But I say I don't hate any of them, and I don't begrudge any of them the experiences they've had. It's just different ways of life. I mentioned earlier working for a senator from Queens, and though we had very, very different life experiences, it was heartening to see that his constituents and our constituents have a lot of the same concerns and a lot of the same desires. You want to put food on the table at the end of the day. You want your kids to have good schools. You want your tax bill to go down. We share a lot of things. I think a lot of times we're convinced as humans that we're much farther apart than we are. I really think we're closer as individuals in New York State than we're led to believe. But, I do part in terms of policy. I do part in terms of what I would want Albany focusing its time on. I don't care about the MTA. I'm glad that someone from downstate is focusing on that, but that's not my priority. My priority is making sure that the Democratic Party is taking care of our farmers, making sure they are not overstepping on our right to bear arms, making sure that they're understanding that taxing is not always the solution, that the middle class's taxes need to go down in this state.
And we're going a little bit late. It's AM 1480 WLEA Hornell. We're going to join Brian Kilmeade's show in just a few minutes here. We went late in interest of giving equal time because the Congressman Reed section had about 15 minutes. We'd like to do the same for Democrat State Senate candidate Austin Morgan. Well, Austin, down to the last 2 or 3 minutes, was there anything I did not bring up that you wanted to talk about?
I mean, I want to just reiterate on this I-90 issue. The governor does need to stop digging in his heels, and he needs to come back to the table in good faith, just as all of the parties need to. These attacks by Borrello and Reed are simply making the situation worse. What we really need is someone in the majority, someone able to sit down and mediate. I don't think anyone credibly believes that Tom Reed or George Borrello at this point could mediate the situation. We need someone working with the transportation chair, Senator Tim Kenney out of Buffalo, someone able to sit down with the governor who hasn't called him this, that, and the other, someone able to sit down with the Seneca Nation leaders and actually be a third party able to make sure that we do fix the damn roads. That's what we all want here. So the other thing I'll say is that if folks want to learn more about me, you can find me on Facebook, Austin Morgan for State Senate. or you can go to voteaustinmorgan.com. You can read about me there. You can read a little bit about our team, and you can read about our policy stances.
Democrat State Senate candidate Austin Morgan, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Could you stay on the line for just a moment?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brian. It's been a real pleasure.
It's AM. Thank you, Austin. It's AM 1480 WLEA Hornell. We now join Fox News already in progress.